I'd gone to bed early that night, lulled by the usual cicada whine drifting through the cracked window of my farmhouse on the outskirts of Tres Piedras. The power had flickered twice during a dry lightning storm rolling off the Sangre de Cristos, but I thought nothing of it until a second, deeper concussion rattled the glass and sent a tremor up the bed frame. I remember sitting bolt upright, heart hammering, convinced a propane tank had exploded somewhere along the highway. Then came the glow, a sickly aurora green halo pulsing just beyond the cottonwoods at the rear of my property. The livestock were silent. Even the cicadas had stopped. The air smelled like solder and ozone. I grabbed the flashlight, slipped on boots over bare feet, and padded outside, more annoyed than frightened. The beam of light died after 3 flickers. Every battery in the house would prove drained later, but I didn't yet understand why. I followed the eerie glow across the brittle grass until I reached the fence line and saw the ruin in the arroyo. Imagine a cathedral organ pipe flattened into a shard of silver glass, half buried, steaming in the red dirt. Jagged ribs of metal sprouted from the hull like broken fingers. Between them, something moved, too tall for a man, its outline rippling, as if heat haze had been poured into the shape of a creature. When it turned, I glimpsed facets, like a fly's eye, and a mouth that wasn't a mouth at all, just overlapping plates that clicked against one another. Terror should have rooted me. Instead, a cool wave slid over my scalp, blanketing my thoughts with calm instruction. Approach. Help. I felt my legs obey. The creature regarded me, and a filament of turquoise light unspooled from its head, drifting toward my forehead like a hypnotist's watch. The instant it touched, the world folded. I was still me. I could hear my own pulse, taste my own fear. But another presence wrapped around my thoughts, steering them like reins. It guided me back to the house. My hands packed tools I barely recognized from the shed, acetylene torch, welding mask, spare car battery, jumper cables, while my voice, no longer mine, hummed syllables that tasted like iron filings. I remember the awful clarity. I was a marionette who could see the strings. By dawn, soldiers had cordoned off County Road 64. The plume of smoke had been spotted by a ranch hand, and the Air Force arrived before the local deputies. I watched through my kitchen blinds as a Humvee crawled along the gravel, antennae twitching. The presence inside my skull coiled tighter, an electric knot. They will hinder the restoration. The words weren't spoken. They printed themselves across my mind. I felt my body stride onto the porch. A soldier raised a hand, signaling me to stop. "Ma'am, we need you to stay inside. This area's under federal..." He never finished. My right palm lifted, and a transparent ripple, like the surface of water struck by wind, burst outward. It hit the soldier square in the chest. His rifle flew one way, his body another, landing boneless on the dirt. I heard my own mouth whisper, "I'm sorry, it's not me. Please run." He did not rise. Gunfire crackled from the perimeter. The presence flexed, and a dome of shimmering emerald blossomed around me. Bullets struck the membrane and flattened, spinning away like dead moths. I walked forward, compelled, each step a nightmare of awareness. My toes felt the grit. My lungs drew air, but I was somewhere behind my eyes, screaming into a locked room. 2 more soldiers advanced, shouting commands. I begged them to flee, the words tumbling out even as my arms swept in arcs that bent the air itself. Invisible hammers smashed rifles, helmets, bone. One man lay with his leg twisted beneath him, eyes wide. I knelt, truly I, and clutched his vest. "He's controlling me," I sobbed. "Tell them to back off." Blood bubbled on his lip. He tried to answer, but the presence yanked me upright before I could hear. I became a living battering ram, clearing a corridor through uniformed bodies toward the arroyo. Each time I struck someone down, I felt the alien satisfaction seep through the link. Cool, clinical, utterly detached. Yet I also felt a second emotion underneath, like static behind music, desperation. The creature was wounded, time was short, and I was the nearest tool. We labored in the ravine for hours. Under the alien's instruction, I fused shattered conduits with my torch, spliced power cells using the pickup's battery, and hauled slabs of hull plating twice my weight, my muscles driven by strength that was not my own. All the while, the shield shimmered around us, deflecting sniper rounds and rocket-propelled grenades. The sky roared with helicopters. Somewhere, a loudspeaker pleaded for my surrender. I answered only with the alien's language, syllables that tasted of ice water and tin. When sunset bled across the desert, the ship hummed to life, its engines a chord that vibrated teeth. The alien released my mind long enough for me to slump beside a boulder, exhausted. It crouched, studying me with those faceted eyes. Something like pity, or perhaps mere assessment, passed across its angular face. You have served. You may continue. The phrase felt like scissors snipping the final thread. I could move on my own again, yet I was hollowed out, my conscience cratered by the memory of broken soldiers. I watched the creature glide up a ramp of self-weaving metal into the craft. The hull sealed, the air shimmered, and the vessel rose, shedding dirt in spirals. Spotlights caught it mid-ascent. A Stinger missile streaked from a distant launcher, white tail sizzling across the twilight. The alien's shield flared brighter than noon, but the warhead detonated an arm's length away, shoving the ship sideways like a swatted insect. It spun, clipped a ridge of basalt, and ploughed into the far mesa with a thunder that flattened every juniper for 1/2 mile. Silence followed, then the roar of engines as the military convoy surged past me toward the crash site. I could have run. Instead, I stood, too numb to tremble, and raised my hands when the first soldier trained his rifle on my chest. "I'm here," I said. "Please, just take me." They bound my wrists with plastic ties slick from someone else's blood and marched me beneath a wash of floodlights to a temporary command tent. Inside, men in fatigues argued over satellite images, while a medic swabbed the crusted cuts on my face. Every so often, someone asked a question: name, address, how many intruders, where was the craft's power source? But each answer I gave was met with a glance toward a superior officer, as if deciding whether I was witness, collaborator, or contagion. I told them about the mind control. I told them I'd begged their men to flee. I told them the alien had used me the way a welder uses pliers, gripping, turning, discarding. Some faces softened, others hardened. One captain muttered, "We'll have to quarantine her. Can't risk whatever got into her head." Hours dragged. Near dawn, they loaded me into the back of a cargo truck, already holding a steel crate the size of a phone booth, its seams venting cold blue vapor. Through a perforated slit, I saw the alien inside, shackled by loops of something that looked like liquid mercury frozen mid-flow. Its eyes found mine. A pulse of emotion brushed my thoughts. Weariness, resignation, and the faintest echo of gratitude. Then the crate walls opaqued. The convoy rolled for what felt like days, though my watch had been confiscated. Eventually the truck stopped. I was led through concrete corridors that smelled of bleach and old fear. The room they chose had no windows, only a drain in the floor and a stainless steel table bolted to the slab. A doctor in a paper gown asked me to sign a non-disclosure agreement. My hands shook too badly to hold the pen. They never told me the location, but the chill hinted we were underground. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, insectile and relentless. They questioned me again, every detail of the crash, the technology, the language. Each answer was recorded by a man who never blinked. When they finished, the doctor returned, this time with 2 MPs and a syringe of milky fluid. "Is that a sedative?" I asked. He hesitated. "Let's call it a final measure of containment." I didn't fight. I'd fought enough for 10 lifetimes. As the needle slid into my vein, I heard a distant metallic shriek echo through the ductwork, the alien perhaps realizing what containment meant. The world tilted, colors draining into grey. My last coherent thought was simple, detached. At least the stars will never know what happened here. I awoke only once more, adrift in a chemical fog, strapped to a gurney beside another, larger shape under a tarp. Voices murmured about optics, national security, no viable recovery. A hatch clanged open. Cold night air swept in, smelling of jet fuel. The gurneys were wheeled onto a tarmac where a cargo plane idled, its hold yawning like a mouth. Someone said, "Do it here, cleaner." The tarp was peeled back. Underneath lay the alien, still bound, eyes dim but aware. A soldier raised a sidearm. I wanted to scream, to plead, but the drug pinned my tongue. The muzzle flashed twice, once for the creature, once for me. Darkness blossomed, merciful and absolute. They will say nothing happened that night, that the tremor was a weather balloon crashing, a munitions test gone awry, a glitch in the radar. They will erase the files, burn the meadow where silver shards once glittered, and silence the families of the soldiers I broke. The desert will heal, wind smoothing the scars, and the stars will keep their counsel. But somewhere, perhaps in the echo left behind my skull, a faint trace of alien thought endures, watching, waiting, remembering the woman who carried it through fire and gunpowder and betrayal. And on certain nights, when the cicadas fall silent and the power lines hum with a frequency just beyond hearing, I feel that presence stir, searching for a voice. I pray there is no one left to answer.